Jesse back with you here, joined by my good friend Zach Miller. Zach becoming a staple on the show here. Way to go, man. This is the first time I think that we've sat here, just the two of us, to do this fantasy football thing.
Should be more of a regular thing, I think, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. The best two looking guys on the...
Quickly, Jeff's not here. Who'd you rather hang out with, talk football?
I mean, I like Jeff, but I mean, when it comes down to hanging out with you, I know that anytime I make a wager with you, you'll actually pay up after I beat you. So from that aspect, I do.
How would you know that, though? Because you never physically actually beat me.
Oh. Well, we'll see. If the junkies hop onto the website right now, they can scroll across every single one of the writers' pages. They can take a look at our Pick'em Challenge results so far. And I believe right now there's a three-way tie between Jeff, Yeasty, and Jesse. And who's in last place right now? Zach, I think that's you.
Really?
Yes.
Out of how many?
Out of 4.
Okay.
Last place out of 4.
After 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I like to make the comeback. I like to start slow and work my way.
You're a strong finisher. Yeah. That's what she said.
And I take risks. I pick upsets.
Anyways, what we're going to do here with Zach is just continue on the same trend that we were doing with Yeasty. Again, if you've missed any part of the show so far, or at the end of the show, there will be one segment that's a web-only segment. You can catch all that stuff at testosteronesports.com. Zach also does writing there and does weekly power rankings, has his own writers page, so on and so forth. But right now, the heart and soul of the show is breaking down the matchups, and we've got a good one to talk about here, Zach. The Pittsburgh Steelers travel down to Florida to square off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jags have gotten their swagger back just a little. They've won back-to-back games, but this one sure seems like a classic smash-mouth type of football game that we love to watch.
Definitely. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, hard-fought battle, a lot of defense, not a whole lot of offense, and I expect it to be somewhere in the, mid-teens, maybe a 14-10 game, or maybe a 20-14 game, somewhere around there. So
right now, Ben Roethlisberger is a player that fantasy owners have come to expect big things from, but he's started off a little bit slow this season. The last 2 weeks in the league that you commission, the Puff League, as it were, I've benched Ben Roethlisberger just because he doesn't seem to be throwing the ball with a lot of confidence. He's only got 4 TDs in 4 games. This is a tough matchup for him here. Should fantasy owners be thinking about benching Big Ben here?
Yeah, again, if you have another backup that's got a quality matchup, you might want to think about it, because he is struggling. A lot of it has to do with their line play. He's not getting a whole lot of time. And even if you watch that game last week, even the plays he made, he's scrambling outside the box. He's making the plays on his own, plays on the run, because he doesn't have more than a half second, 2 seconds to sit in the pocket to make an actual read or to, make an accurate throw. He's got to get out of the pocket. Doesn't have a whole lot of time to throw. He's taken a lot of sacks, again, much like he did last year, and he's got 11 sacks in the last 2 games. Yep. And not only is he not producing like he did last year, he's also taking a beating. So
that's a bad recipe. A bad recipe for sure. Yeah. He's averaging just 159 yards passing per game. And one of the keys for them has always been the ability to run the ball effectively. But it's looking like now Willie Parker may be out for this game, and rookie Rashard Mendenhall lost for the season with a shoulder injury last week. Zach, who's going to run the ball for the Steelers here?
Like you said, Willie Parker is definitely out for this Sunday, and losing the rookie Rashard Mendenhall is a big blow, because this team was really high on this guy. Right. He's got all the talent in the world. He's a big physical back with good speed, and he's a good receiver out of the backfield. They did sign Najee Davenport. They brought him back. He stinks. He's a big guy, but he's a goal line guy, and he can get you the tough yards. He's a smash mouth guy. He fits their offense real well. Otherwise, we're going to roll with Mwelde Moore, who's more of a third down back. He's going to be a good receiver out of the backfield. And then they got Chris Davis, the fullback. So other running backs are going to be quality starts probably. There's going to be those guys that get them the yards that they need, and that's why I think it's going to be a real low-scoring game. And they might have to rely on Big Ben to throw a little bit more and, hit Santonio Holmes and Big Ben, get Heath Miller going. They might have to resort to that. Yeah,
Holmes finally showed up last week with a much-needed touchdown catch there. Now, when the Jags have the ball, they're a run-heavy offense as well, led by quarterback David Garrard, who you really can't start in fantasy play right now. His wide receiver position is just pretty diseased, although Matt Jones has been kind of coming on of late, probably the best receiver out of this group if you're in a pinch. But talk about what you expect from Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew here. Zach, it seems like when these guys are on, they're fantastic, and when they're not, they're very ordinary. Which are we going to see this week?
That could be a tough call, and like you said, they're always off and on. Last year they did have a couple of decent games against Pittsburgh. In fact, Fred Taylor ran for 100 yards last year against Pittsburgh. And then there's other games where he's going to get in there and get 10 carries and rush for 20 yards. So It all depends on how they get going and how they start the game, it seems like. If they start the game and they're running real well, they'll keep that going through the whole game and have a very productive game on the ground. If they start out slow, they're not getting a whole lot of big gains, and they're getting stopped on first down, then you expect a slow game out of them. So it could be a tough call. I'm expecting them not to run as well as you'd want to as a fantasy owner.
The Dallas Cowboys got punched in the mouth last week by the Washington Redskins. They're back on their heels. Terrell Owens coming out in the media saying he wants the ball more, those kinds of things. The Cowboys get the balm that heals all wounds this week coming to Texas Stadium. The Cincinnati Bengals roll into town, averaging just 13 points a game, Zach. How bad are the Bengals?
It's getting from bad to worse. They lost to the Cleveland Browns, who've been struggling very big. And another thing is Carson Palmer. They don't know if he's going to play. He says he's going to play. They need him to play in this game. They need him to play in this game just so they only lose by 20 points. You know what I mean?
Right.
Otherwise, they're going to get blown up by. I expect Dallas to put up 35, 40 points in this game. They're coming off a tough loss. Their division rival, Washington Redskins, last week. They want to come out and show that they are the best offensive team in the league, and they're just going to come out and wing it, run it, and just pound them.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Start all your Cowboys. Jason Witten, a great play here. Third in the league in receptions at this point. He's going to get off. Tony Romo, a must start on a weekly basis. Marion Barber should be getting it going on the ground too. And on the Bengals side of things, you know, you might want to just consider reserving all those guys, especially if Palmer doesn't start there. Now Buffalo traveling to Arizona to play against an Arizona team that's been putting up some nice numbers on offense. Zach, Kurt Warner throwing it all around the field. He's third in the league in passing yardage. Anquan Boldin has been outstanding so far on the season. He leads the league in passing touchdown catches. So, but Boldin is a little bit questionable for this game with a fractured nasal passage, man. That sounds pretty damn painful.
Well, you saw the hit he took. I mean, that was a wicked, vicious hit. And just the fact that he's, not more seriously hurt than he actually is just incredible. But you're like you said, Kurt Warner is absolutely rolling right now, throwing for a lot of yards. The only thing is, it doesn't matter how many points they score on offense. It doesn't matter how many touchdowns Kurt Warner throws. If their defense can't stop anybody, they're not going to win any games. I mean, they gave up 6 passing touchdowns to Brett Favre last week. And it's not going to matter how well their offense. Their defense needs to step up and stop somebody to get this team rolling again.
And Buffalo's a squad that people have kind of slept on. I mean, myself included. I never thought they'd be 4-0 at this point. I mean, they're one of only 2 4-0 teams in the league right now. Do you think they can keep that going here? Is Trent Edwards going to be this week's Brett Favre, where he throws for 4 or 5 touchdowns in this contest? Can people start Trent Edwards here?
He could be definitely a reliable start. I mean, he's been solid. I mean, he hasn't been great, but he's been solid. He's capable, of putting up decent numbers. Lee Evans is starting to heat up a little bit. He caught a touchdown last week. And their offense is just rolling. They're really balanced offense. They got a great running back in Marshawn Lynch, who's been solid all year long, and he catches the ball in the backfield. And Trent Edwards, he doesn't make any mistakes, which is huge. So especially in leagues that reward or disreward you for interceptions and fumbles, he's not going to take away points a lot from you. But he could be a reliable start, especially against the Arizona defense, who has obviously been susceptible to big plays and a lot of scoring. So.
Yeah, exactly. And as these guys in the next segment are going to talk about, some sell high type players, Edgerrin James is a guy you might really want to think about selling high on. He's been extremely productive so far this season, had 2 touchdown runs last week. If you've got him and Tim Hightower packaged together, it might not be bad to hold on to those guys. But if you don't have Hightower, you have to think that at some point in time this season, Edge might be susceptible to an injury, and so therefore right now would be a nice time to seek out the Hightower owner in your league. Try to trade him, Edgerrin James. Maybe you could get back a player that might be popping later for you down the stretch.
And another thing with that, just watch to see how the Cardinals do during the season. If they start to lose the lead in the division or start to fall off, they might give Hightower the majority of the carries just because he's going to be the future of that team.
Exactly. New England traveling to San Francisco. The Bay Area is going to be excited this week to welcome one of the best teams to town in the Patriots, but really they're not the Patriots of old, Zach. They lost their last game. They have Matt Castle at quarterback, and Randy Moss just not making the kind of plays that we're accustomed to. This week, Bill Belichick has come out and said he believes in Matt Castle. He's standing behind his quarterback, but the real question here is, do you believe in Matt Castle?
We're going to find out this week, and I know more than anything, Bill Belichick, after this bye week, what he wants to do is he wants to come out there and get that spread offense going. That's what he wants to do. That's how he runs his offense. He wants to get those receivers. He wants Welker in the slot, getting matched up on linebackers and hitting him all day. He wants to throw it deep to Randy Moss and get him back in the game. I mean, he's had a couple of really down games lately.
Absolutely.
That's what he wants to do. So if he has confidence in Cassell. That's what he's going to try and do. As for me, do I have confidence in it? So I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach and see how he does this weekend. If there's a team to do it against, the 49ers, they've been lit up a couple times this year.
Right.
They're a little bit tougher to run on, so that we'll see how their passing game goes.
Now, when the 49ers have the ball, people are going to be just penciling Frank Gore in for a huge game because the last time we saw the Patriots, they got ripped because they played Ronnie Brown and he torched them. I don't think that Frank Gore is going to go off like that, but I think Frank Gore should definitely be in your starting lineup. He could be good for 100 yards and a touchdown or two here.
I think, well, he'll definitely get 100 combo yards. I mean, he's not only is he going to maybe get 100 yards rushing, but he's definitely a big threat in the passing game. He's going to catch at least 4 or 5 balls. Mike Martz likes to get him involved in the entire game. He stays in on third downs just because he has that ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. So he should have a relatively productive day, especially if he gets in the end zone.
Now, J.T. O'Sullivan, a guy that was probably on your waiver wire at the beginning of the year, I'm sure some savvy owner has snapped him up at this point. I look at this matchup for him, and I think this is pretty juicy. I mean, the Patriots secondary doesn't offer much in the way of a big shutdown corner or a playmaking ball hawk safety. Those kinds of players don't really exist here for the Patriots. So I think O'Sullivan, we talked about Roethlisberger earlier in the segment. I'd rather start a guy like O'Sullivan this week against the Patriots at home than a guy like Big Ben on the road at Jacksonville. O'Sullivan's turning into a guy fantasy owners can play.
Definitely, I totally agree. And he's just one of those guys, he's going to get the pass attempts. Mike Martz is going to throw at least 30 times in that game.
Right.
And he's going to be looking for those deep post routes all game long. And like you said, the Patriots defense isn't quite what it was last year when they had Asante Samuel. They got, Rodney Harrison's in his upper 30s. They got 2 relatively young corners that are a little bit inexperienced. So you should be able to find those deep patterns and hit those guys for deeper routes, especially Isaac Bruce, who, has proven that age isn't catching up to him like a lot of people thought he's going to be. He's becoming a really reliable receiver for J.T. O'Sullivan.
Right, exactly. Well, if you're just joining us right now, we thank you. We welcome you to the show. There's still a little bit of time left in the show. Jeff's going to be coming on in the next segment. We'll welcome Yeasty back to the set. We're going to talk about the trading season that is upon us. Fantasy football owners know that it's not only a great draft, it's not only picking up those free agents off the wire, but well-timed trades can deliver a fantasy championship in your league. And right now is when owners who might be, 1-3 or 0-4 are really seeking to shake up their team. So at this point in time, if you play the cards right, if you read the tea leaves properly, you can set yourself up for a dominating fantasy football run. So we're going to be back in just a couple minutes to talk about that. But Zach, it's been fun, man. It's been great just kicking back, talking about fantasy football with you, dude.
Don't you just wish you could do this all day long?
Absolutely.
Not go to your actual job?
Not go to my actual job. I spend hours and hours on the website, though, and if you haven't checked the website out, testosteronesports.com. After the show tonight is over on MCN, we want you to go to testosteronesports.com. We do this thing called the Fat Chat, Zach, where guys can come on. It's a live fantasy chat. It was off the hook last week.
It was fantastic. Even for me, and even when I'm on there, I'm even asking these other guys questions. Questions of my own, like who would you start? Just any football questions that are relevant. We talk about other stuff even that isn't football relevant.
Right.
Just to have good talk with these guys. It's just a blast. Last week we had at least 30 guys on there, and we're just chatting away. It was awesome for a good solid 2 hours.
Absolutely. A free fantasy football chat going down live after the show, testosteronesports.com. Come on, check it out. The site is the bomb. It's off the hook. You'll love it, and everything on the site is free. So we've got one more segment in the show. We'll be back right after this.
Different words describe different people. But in the eyes of the law, there's one that fits us all. Human right number 7. We're all equal before the law. What are human rights? Find out at youthforhumanrights.org.